So hello everyone, welcome back to week 9 of this course. So we have been talking about semantics in the last 2 weeks, and we discussed two different approaches for semantics. One was using lexical semantics, another was using distribution semantics. And we saw how using the corpus or from a lexicon you can extract semantics, you can capture the meanings of words in some sense, that is whether two words are similar to each other and many other aspects. So in this week we will discuss another very interesting way of capturing semantics by using topic models, and they have been a very popular tools in NLP for whenever you have to talk about what are the concepts that are there in a particular document, in a particular corpus, and many other questions that are around the semantics. So let us see what are these topic models. So firstly, let us start with a brief motivation that why do we actually need topic models as such. So when we talk about the data, the text data in general on the web, so there is a huge amount of data available, right, in form of whatever form you can think of. There are a lot of data in terms of news articles, scientific articles, and blogs, social media, and everywhere. Now, so you can think of it as some sort of information overload, and you might be interested to capture only certain aspect of the data. Okay, so you want to capture certain semantics. So what is an easy way in which you can some sort of organize this data, and then this can help you to search or browse through this data much more effectively. So right now what are the main tools that we use for doing this search of different information? Either we type some query in our search engine, right, some human so free text query we type and we get some results. Okay, and we try to browse through the results, and sometimes the results are not relevant, or even if they are relevant, we go to the pages to which they link to and keep on browsing. So that is some sort of generic behavior of how we try to explore this sort of information. But there is no easy interface where you can say, okay, I want to understand these topics only, I want to go deep into this topic, I want to go related topics and all that. That is not available with this search and link kind of behavior. So topic modeling gives you an alternative method of going through this huge amount of information by some sort of searching based on themes criteria. So you can think of it as if you are having a set of documents, and you know what are the themes that are running through this corpus. So you know that, okay, this document is about certain themes related to politics, this document is about certain themes related to dramatics, and so on, different concepts. Now you are going to a particular theme, and then you can either zoom in or zoom out. Okay, so that is, you want to go inside that theme to very sub themes, or you want to go out to a broader theme. So can this be facilitated by some sort of modeling? So we might also want to look at how the themes in a corpus are changing over time. Okay, how they are evolving over time. This happens a lot in, for example, scientific article. A particular research in physics might be starting with certain concepts, and over that period of time it is now having new concepts. Okay, so by various discoveries. So can we discover that what are the themes that are pervading over time? And you can also talk about this behavior where you select the theme first, and then you try to examine the documents that talk about that theme. So topic modeling, it is a method that gives you this facility by which you can organize all these collections by the themes that are occurring in those documents, and you can then understand, search, and do summarization and many other applications. Okay, and this is important, that for doing all that you do not have to give any prior manual efforts in labeling the data. So you do not have to tell that this document concerns this topic or this document concerns that topic. You do not have to do any labeling. So the interesting aspect is that you give it a corpus, and in an unsupervised manner it learns what is the overall structure of different topics and which document concerns which topics and so on. So this is some sort of very interesting aspect that made topic modeling very popular, that you do not need to have any prior annotation as such. Although there are some variations we will also talk about, where you can give annotation to get some different sort of topic modeling, but overall in the generic picture you do not have to give any sort of annotations. So it learns on its own from the huge amount of data. So what you do here, so you discover what are the hidden themes that are pervading through the collection, and the topic model itself annotates the documents as per these themes. So it will tell you, okay, these are the overall themes, this document contains these themes and so on. And once you have these annotations that are given with the topic model, you can use that for very different tasks like organizing the collection, summarizing the collection, searching when the user query comes by using these annotations. So many different applications. We will cover some of those in this week. And yes, you can. There's a huge amount of literature around topic models. So you can also feel free to read about that. So let's talk about one or two applications before we go into the modeling in detail. So we are consistently talking about discovering topics from a corpus. Okay, and that is one of the most important application of topic models. So something like that. So you have a large corpus, and can you discover that there are many topics, and topic look like this. Okay, by topic I mean a set of words that occur a lot in that topic. Okay, so let's see one topic: human genome, DNA, genetic, genes, sequence, gene, molecular sequencing, map, information. So topic model will try to get you, okay, this is one sort of topic. It will not give you a label. Okay, so although you can see this looks like a genetics, topic of genetics, it will not give you a label. It will tell you that there is a topic in this corpus, there is a theme, and in this theme these words are having more higher probability. So these are the more important words in this theme, and then it will tell, okay, there is another thing that is going through this corpus, something like this: evolution, evolutionary, species, organism, life, origin, biology. Again you see a set of terms. Okay, these are having a high probability in that theme. There is no label that topic model is giving, but you can see, okay, it might be evolutionary biology. Okay, then similarly another theme: disease, host, bacteria, diseases, so on, and fourth theme: computer, models, information, data, computers, and so on. So topic model will tell you, okay, in this collection you have these 4 themes in addition to some other themes. Okay, so that is a predefined number that you will need to give to the models. So you can say, okay, I want 50 different themes in this corpus, or 20 different themes in this corpus. Yes, although there are again variations where you might not have to specify these number a priori. We will briefly talk about those also. But for now, let us say we tell the model we need that many themes. So it tries to discover, okay, these are the important themes that I am seeing that are pervading through this corpus. And these are some examples that we are seeing here that are coming from a real corpus by doing the LDA, applying the LDA model. Now once you have these themes, then the topic model will also tell you, okay, this document is about having only these 2 themes out of these 50. This document is having these 5 themes out of these 50, in what proportions, and so on. So like that you can now think about organizing your whole collection, and also some sort of summarization or searching through this. Now, so why is this intuition interesting? So when you look at a particular document in general, you will see that yes, there are actually some particular themes that are pervading this whole document. So that is, you have somehow thought of making a document that concerns these themes only. So here's an article from Science magazine, 1996, Seeking Life's Bare Genetic Necessities. And so if you read this article, so this is about using some sort of computational data analysis to determine the number of genes an organism that needs to survive. So how many genes an organism needs to survive. So this topic, this article will blend some of the topics that are important to convey this message. Okay, and these words are denoted in various colors here. So you are seeing some words with pink, some words with yellow, some words with blue, and so on. So let's read the words in pink. So they are organism, survive, life, organisms. Yellow, genes, genomes, genes, genetic, sequenced genome, and blue will be computer, productions, numbers, computational, computer analysis, and so on. So you can clearly see 3 different themes. One is about genetics, another is about evolution, another is about this computational data analysis. So this article is blending these 3 themes together. Okay, So, can we capture that in an unsupervised manner without someone has to manually annotate this? Okay, this is the themes in this document. So yes, you see blue is about data analysis, pink is evolutionary biology, and yellow is genetics. So, this article is blending these three topics in different proportions, and that is the motivation. So, that is what is the hypothesis that we are having about our corpus. In the corpus, there will be various documents. There will be some big number of themes that are going through this corpus, but when you look at a particular document, it will have only a subset of these themes, okay, in some proportions. Can we automatically capture those by using some modeling? So yeah, once you know that this article blends these topics together, you can situate that in a collection of scientific articles. You can say, okay, where this situates, what are the articles it is similar to, and so on. So what is the basic idea? We will not go into the mathematical details that we will cover in the next week, but let us see the intuition. So this is the important idea. So topic model is some sort of generative model, and it's a statistical model that captures this idea about the collection having topics and document having different proportions. So what it says is that, so you are having some documents, they are nothing but mixtures of topic, and a topic is nothing but a probability distribution over words. Okay. So what are three things we are talking about? We are talking about a collection that is having documents D1, D2 up to Dn, the other documents in the collection. Then you are having some topics. Okay. So suppose there are some T1 to Tk topics, and you know there are documents. In documents, some words will occur, and you say, okay, these are my vocabulary. These are my words. W1 to some Wm. Okay. So these are three things in the collection. There are documents. Some words occur. Suppose these are the unique words. Define your vocabulary, and there are some topics. Now, what topic models say? Yes, topics are nothing but probability distribution over words. So T1 would be something like a distribution. Okay. So here word 1 comes with a probability of 0.01, word 2 comes with a probability of 0.1, and so on. Okay. Similarly, Tk will be again a probability distribution. Word 1 comes with a probability distribution of 0.05, word 2 with a 0.01, and so on. And idea is that, okay, probably there will be some sort of different sort of themes. Now, so these are my topics. Topics are defined by probability distribution over words. Now, what are my documents? Documents are again some sort of probability distribution over topics. So I will say D1. What is D1? D1 is having a distribution over these k topics. So I say, okay, topic 1 occurs with a probability of 0.05, topic 2 with probability of 0.2, topic 3 with 0.5, and so on. Okay, so I will say, okay, something like topic 3 and topic 2 are more prevalent in this document and not the other topics. And same way I can situate all the documents in some sort of mixture of topics. Okay. And this is very important to understand the topic model. So what are my topics? Probability distribution over the words. And what are my documents? Again, mixture components of topics, or you can also say probability distribution over the topics. Okay. So this will all add up to 1. This will all add up to 1 for all the topics, for all the documents. Okay. So what does that mean? So if I have a topic like genetics, remember no labeling, but we can see when we see the words. So this is probably about genetics. So if you have a topic about genetics, this will have words about genetics with high probability, and if we have a topic of evolutionary biology, it will have topic about evolutionary biology with high probability. Okay. So these will be making two different themes in this collection. And the model is a generative model, and as we understand generative model, so it will work like, okay, from we will first generate the topics. Yes, we first define the topics, then when we have the topics, we will now start building the documents. We will say, okay, document will have some proportion of these topics, and then I will write the words in the documents. So topics are generated first, and then the documents as per the generative model. Okay. So So, this picture will make things more clearer. So we are seeing some nice colors here. So, on the left you are seeing some topics, right? That is what we are talking about. We are having a set of topics, and each topic is a probability distribution over the words in the collection. So, like here this topic has the word gene with a probability of 0.04, DNA with 0.02, genetic with 0.01, life with 0.02, this is a different topic, brain, neuron, nerve, right, data, computer, number, different probabilities. You see, seeing there are different themes. Now, once we have this corpus-wide themes, so each topic is a distribution over words. You understand that. Now, what is a document? So, you are seeing a collection here, and there are a lot of documents, right? And we are being shown one document. So, each document is a mixture of corpus-wide topics. So, these are my corpus-wide topics. Now, I will take a particular mixture of these topics. So, suppose one of my mixture is here. I take this topic, right, yellow and blue. I take these three topics only. Maybe others are there with a very, very small fraction. And this defines the topic distribution of my document. Now, so I have now said that my document contains these topics with some proportions. Now, how do I generate the words in the documents, right? That is important. I need to generate the words. So, how are the words generated? That is again interesting. So, you have this, you think of it as a multinomial distribution, and from this distribution you sample a topic. Okay. Suppose the first sample is this pink, that pink topic, that is about organism, life, evolve, and so on. You sample this topic. Now, from this topic you have to generate a word. How do you generate a word? Again, this topic is what? A probability distribution over words. Think of it as a multinomial distribution. Again, sample a word from here, and that is what you will generate in the document. And this you will keep on doing for generating all the words in the document. So, you will say, okay, next word, I will again sample a topic. I get this yellow topic about gene, DNA, genetics. I use this topic to generate a word by sampling from its multinomial distribution, and that is what I keep on repeating. This is for this document. Again, for next document, I will select a mixture of topics. Okay. And then once I have the mixture, I will again keep on selecting the words that will go in the document. So, now, so this is a statistical model, also we call it a generative model. So, what does this reflect? So, it reflects two important things. What are those? All the documents in the collection share the same set of topics, right? We have an underlying set of topics. All documents are sharing the same set, although the proportions are different. Okay. So, each document exhibits those topics in different proportions. That is one important fact. And then what is the other fact? Each word in each document is drawn from one of the topics, where the selected topic is chosen from the per document distribution over topics. Okay. So, is that clear? So, for each document I have a collection of I have a distribution over topics. So, I say, okay, this topic is probably 0.2, 0.5, 0.1, and so on. Now, each word in the document is sampled from this distribution. How? You sample a topic first, and then as per the topic's probability distribution, you sample a word. Okay. This we will cover in the generative model in more details, but that is the intuition that we showed also from the picture. So, these are two important facts about LDA. Now, so if we think about the example article from Science magazine that we were seeing, so the distribution over topics would place a probability on genetics, data analytics, and evolutionary biology. Okay. And each word will be drawn from one of these topics. So, what will happen when you are doing the inferencing? You will say, okay, this document contains these three topics, and how do you generate a word? You will sample a topic from here, and as per the topic's probability distribution, sample a word and keep on generating the words. So, this is the generative model, but is that what we also see when we have a real corpus, we apply LDA and do an inferencing? So, that is what is being shown. So, for this collection of science papers, so a topic model was trained with 100 topics, and this is what you see. So, these are the 100 topics, and for this particular document, some topics have a high probability. So, this topic have probability roughly 0.4, 0.15, 0.12, and the next one having 0.05. So, if you see the top 4 topics in this particular document and try to see the most probable words in these topics, so that is what you see. So, this topic had human genome, DNA, genetics and so on, same sort of topics that we were showing earlier, and you see this was obtained without doing any manual labeling. So, you find out, okay, this document contains these 4 different themes, important themes, and this is, you can also do some labeling later on manually. This is not done by LDA, but yeah, this is also not very important. So, what is important is that LDA can help you to obtain this sort of distribution, this in a very unsupervised manner. So, you can find out what are the overall themes, and for a document what are the most important themes. So, now, we talked about, okay, what is the generative model of LDA, but what is the main problem of LDA? Okay. So, we are saying, okay, we will generate the topic first and then we will generate the documents, right, by sampling a distribution of topics. For each word I will take a topic, its distribution I will take a word and so on. Okay. But that is not how we write the documents, right. So, how will that be used? So, it has to be used in a manner that I am observing some data, I have this generative model, and now I am trying to estimate the parameters of this generative model by using my observations. That is, what parameters will maximize the likelihood of seeing the observation. So, this is like reversing this whole process of LDA that we are talking about. Okay. So, we know the documents are observed in a collection, I know the documents, but I do not know the topic structure. So, I do not know what are my topics. So, what are the distribution of words within each topic. I do not know for each document what will be the distribution of topics, and I also do not know for each word in a document what will be the topic assignment. I do not know any of this a priori. So, this is all my hidden structure. So, central problem of LDA is to reverse the generative process and use the observed documents to infer the hidden structure. So, what is the hidden structure? Can you infer that by seeing only the observed documents, and this is also called as some sort of reversing the generative process, and that is the central problem of LDA. So, this initial introduction lecture was about to give you the intuition, but now that we have some intuition of what LDA is, what topic model is, we will next go into details about what is the mathematical model of LDA, okay, and how do you solve this problem of reversing the generative process. Okay. So, that will be covered in more details in the next lecture.